That's what you want to hear.
Terrible.
So welcome back to Yes, I'm Adopted. Don't Make It Weird with moi. I turned French over the weekend. Brett. Je m'appelle Brett. Tu appelles Devo? Is that how it works?
I have no idea.
Is that how French works? I don't know. I guess I'll just...
Mi nombre es Devo.
So thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you guys watched our weekend update with Devo this last Sunday. He was talking about a book that he read because he is the reader of The Office. Again, I am going to milk that.
It's
for
true.
all it's worth.
It's absolutely true.
Because he bragged about it.
It's not even a humble brag.
It wasn't even a humble brag, no.
I read. Nobody else here reads. I'm the only one that reads.
So this week we're going to be talking about relationships and how we dealt with them when we were younger, how we deal with them now, how it's impacted our lives being adopted, and which parts of it were just angsty teenage years and which part actually were legitimate adoption issues. Devo, you ready?
Think so.
You ready?
No.
Alright, well you do that, I'm gonna eat a chip.
I'm ready.
I'll go back here though so I don't crunch in your ear.
To preface our talk about relationships and how we've dealt with them in the past, a lot of that's going to refer to like our high school and college years, and I'd like to say that as an adult, I think that like relationships and dating in high school is stupid.
Oh, you got told!
Now,
What?
I did that, and that's coming from the perspective of somebody that is an adult and sees kids now, and also remembers being in that position before, and also remembers in retrospect just how dumb it was. I remember thinking how important those relationships were then.
Right, but looking back on it now.
Right, now, like in my mid-30s, it's like, you remember how much drama there was, and now all of that drama just seems like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. A lot of our relationship stuff that we may talk about is going to have to do with that era, and you know, as a parent or as an adoptee, as a person, whatever, you make your own decisions about that, but that is our preface to this whole discussion. So, let's get into it.
When I was 3 years old, a lot of the discussion that we hear from people and a lot of the questions that come in are based around this idea of the trauma that the child goes through whenever they get put up for adoption. Now, in our case, it was infant adoption. We were very young when we were taken away from the birth mother, or the life bearer as we once called it. We do have a lot of those questions that are based around the trauma of the infant, and so that's kind of what we have to go off of, and it's in a lot of the research that we've done talking about the psychological trauma that takes place from birth as an infant when you are separated from your mother.
But what you do find is that a lot of that information does validate our experience. So we're able to look at infant trauma and how that manifests itself later on in our lives. And a lot of what that does is it's different levels of separation anxiety, or it's different levels of fear of abandonment and stuff like that, and how the adoptee brain handles that later on in life, because when we were infants, we couldn't verbalize it. We didn't know actually what was happening.
Right.
And as adults now, it's just the manifestation of that thing occurring, and now we have words for it, but nobody ever told us this was coming, right? And so our relationships with people in the past have spanned several decades
We're
and
old.
arenas of how that's gone down. So how was your trauma? We do call it trauma brain.
Trauma brain. Look it up.
So
Google it.
Brett,
Okay.
how has your trauma brain affected your relationships with other humans?
So I am, and my wife will attest to this, we talked about this many times and he knows this too, I am probably the most clingy person that you will ever meet. Like, if I find somebody, I want to just stick to them.
I hate this so
like
much.
this is bugging him so much.
This is
great.
the worst.
But I just want to cling to them though, because, you know, I feel, and this has been since I was real little, right? Like when I was super little, like I was so attached to my mom, my adopted mom. I did not want to leave her side. I had anxiety when I was a kid whenever I would be too far away. And same thing with my really, really close friends. I had to be around them or my mom, and if I wasn't, I felt utterly alone, even if I wasn't utterly alone. And that has really kind of I don't want to say screwed up, but made relationships challenging for me in the past and to this day, actually. You know, like when I found somebody that I wanted to be with, I would kind of get clingy to the point of annoyance to them a little bit. Because not everybody's like that, right? Not everybody wants to be attached at the hip to somebody. And so people, friends would get kind of just, hey, back off a little bit. And I took that as a personal affront to me.
Sure.
As they did not want to be around me any longer. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, they didn't like me anymore for some reason. And that's where my brain always went with that. And it got to the point where I started getting irrationally angry at everything. I had a lot of anger issues. I had a lot of rage issues whenever I was younger. I'd go around and punch walls for no reason. I've broken my knuckles like many times. I got those micro fractures that boxers talk about. Like, this does nothing. It's great. But when I was younger, I didn't know how to control those emotions. Now that I'm older and I understand it a little bit more, I can control it a lot better. But I'm still very clingy. I find a lot of people, like, you know, not a lot of people, I find a few people and I just want to attach to them. But that was me, and that's how trauma brain has really affected the relationships that I have. Sure. What about you?
I think my relationships have been an example of extremes. So I go from like extreme possessiveness and jealousy in a lot of cases to relationships that I do have or I do maintain to really distanced and standoffish. So right, so like there's not a whole lot of in between for me. It's like we're best friends or else,
right,
or I want nothing to do with you.
Right.
And so that also has its own set of difficulties, obviously.
Yeah.
Like when my wife and I were dating, I struggled with this all the time with the jealousy issue.
Oh,
Another
too.
person is talking to you.
Me too.
Another human being is talking to you. Another human being, you know, like,
I will fight you.
and it's like, that's your sister, okay? And and that's that's clearly not healthy. But that had been something that had been with me for years.
Me too.
Until we started really learning about what these things were, and then even more so until we started learning that we can take control, that we can start to make decisions and we can decide how we want to react in these scenarios and these things. And the other side of that has been also the keeping people at arm's length. You're a lot better at faking it, I think, than I am. I don't even try, right? So like I've always just been, you know,
he just does.
Either we're best friends or Melanie calls me a cat.
Yeah.
He says that I'm a cat. So, which is probably pretty true. It's this idea that like I want you to love me, but on my terms. When I want to receive your love, and I've allowed myself to be here with you. But as soon as I'm done, I don't want anything to do with you.
Like, don't touch me, don't look at me, don't talk to me.
Right.
I'm going to go into my office and close the door.
I'm going to be over here. I still want you to love me, but now from over here. We're getting better at how we do relationships. I mean, at this point, we've both been married more than 10 years.
Yep. Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah, my wife and I have been married for 12 years now, and it's gotten better as we've matured and as we've grown and as we like to say, been adults and made the decisions that are saying that we're going to be better. The earlier years of like the dating and relationships and all that kind of stuff, they were filled with drama and they were terrible, and that was probably about 80% that we were teenagers. And about 20% exacerbated by the fact that we were also adoptees.
Yeah, a lot of the problems that a lot of teenagers and adopted teenagers face nowadays, parents attribute that to that childhood trauma, the infant trauma, the trauma brain, right? Where 80% of the time, they're just going through something because bodies change, you get hormones, your voice cracks, and you don't know what to do with it. and again, not saying that there's not a legitimate concern there, because all parents, you know, they want the best for their kids, and so they're going to research, they're going to ask questions if they can. But sometimes we kind of make it out to be a bigger deal, the whole adoption thing, than it actually is.
Sure.
And eventually what happens is that becomes a crutch. And so every single time that there's a problem or, some kind of issue going on in their life, a fight, an argument, or whatever, we kind of tend to go back to, oh, they're adopted. I got to be careful. I can't break them any further than they're already broken. You know, like we've talked about that before.
And as a kid, if I know that you're gonna fall into that trap,
Oh man, I'm gonna play it.
oh my gosh,
Woo! And especially if I'm adopted.
we totally did that.
So good at it.
And we know kids today that do that.
Yep.
You know who you are.
Oh.
It's interesting because the way that infant separation trauma manifests itself is widely varied, but a lot of the things have to do with essentially separation anxiety.
Yeah.
There is a fascinating point that you made that we'll probably talk about again later, where a lot of adoptees will take basic observations as personal criticisms.
Yeah,
and
all the time.
that's me to a fault.
All the time.
And that has definitely affected relationships in the past. We're gonna maybe make that its own thing later on.
So, let us know what your guys' thoughts are. It's funny. One take, he doesn't have snacks. The next take, he does. Editing, everybody. Editing.
Continuity.
Yeah. So let us know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments down below. Did we answer any of the questions that you guys have about trauma or about growing up with an adopted teenager or how to parent them? And if we didn't address them, we would love to be able to continue the conversation. So throw your guys' comments or questions in the comment section below.
Hashtag questions.
Questions, baby. So, that is all for this episode. We will see you guys this weekend. Thank you for joining us. And yes, I'm adopted. Don't make it weird. I'm Brett. That's Davo. This is Cal Pico drink. It's delicious. You guys should try this. It's amazing. And seaweed crisps.
They're not even paying us.
Oh, they should pay us.
Please sponsor us.
Cal Pico. Pay. Wait, it's Japanese, I think. Cal Pico. Yeah, those are Japanese symbols.
Please pay us.
No. How do you say please pay us in Japanese?
I don't know.
We need Jeremiah. Jeremiah!
Please sponsor our show.
Okay.
I mean, just send us cases of this drink.
Okay, bye now. That was like the most racist ending we could have done.